that has happened, but the weather has obviously affected a lot of things. Hope you get a chance to walk that boardwalk.
Yeah.
Over
Cool.
there at Jersey Shore, get some T-shirts, huh?
Saltwater taffy.
Maybe a little. We know the Jersey Shore. We've been there. And if you see Snooki, tell her we said we're big fans. And also Paulie D, the whole crew. If you
See, that's like northern Jersey Shore. We're down at like the southern Jersey Shore. Northern Jersey Shore, I think, is like you're talking about maybe like no, Wildwood is southern. So we're in Seattle City, so it's like south of Atlantic City. I think what you're talking about is like an hour north of Atlantic City.
Interesting. Manasquan, I think south, right into Manasquan.
Seaside, maybe. Seaside, Lavalette,
Manasquan,
Long Beach Island.
Manasquan's a good town.
Love Manasquan.
Manasquan's a good town.
Parker Half.
Never been there.
You walk, it's a boardwalk. Michael, you'll see Michael Lombardi.
Take a drive.
Anyways, let's talk about.
What town is Lombardi's?
I think all of them.
Yeah, what time are you in?
Any of these 5 towns.
And he'll know if you're there. Believe me, you'll have to check in with. You know how it works.
Kiss
These
the
Italians,
rings.
you understand how it goes. Talking about the weather, did we learn anything last night from any of these games? I honestly was so bummed out. Drake May gets one drive, one series. Jacoby obviously gets one series, but with Drake there was 4 handoffs. I think there was an overthrow. Was it an overthrow? Was it slick? There was a screen on a 3rd and 12 to pick up a first down. He looked comfortable, looked confident. With how bad the weather was, did we learn anything from anybody in that particular games that took place last night?
Yeah, I liked a lot of the little things that I saw to Drake May, and I understand they're little things and they're kind of boring. So I don't know if they were planning on only playing him that really one series, I think.
Mayo said that was the plan. He did say that afterwards, but who knows, that could just be.
Yeah. I would have liked to see maybe another series, but I did like the little things. Like, we have to remember, and I'm looking at Drake very similar in the prism that I did with Jordan Love, and I've kind of said that since they drafted him. So, Drake was a kid that very rarely, if ever, went under center, very rarely, if ever, handed the ball in a, outside of like a dive right behind the center, but very rarely had to like work on the proper mechanics of handing the football off. And then his feet, is something that I talked about, just very similar to Jordan. We're all over the place and very unstructured. And so what I saw last night, I was looking for, are any of those things improved upon? The screen pass, great. I couldn't care less about that.
What?
But
that's first time. Big third long.
What a throw.
But seriously, I was looking at how did he look under center for a kid who very rarely, if ever, did it. When it came to getting the snaps, a lot of times with kids that come from college and they don't take snaps from the center, and you're going to have to in the NFL. I know we do it more shotgun now than we did 20 years ago, but like a lot of times guys wait for the ball to hit their hands and then they move. Yeah. And one of the things that you get taught is when you like say hot or expect that snap to start, you want to kind of be moving with those guys so it's really crisp and efficient in movement. And it looked like he had relative comfort in doing that. It wasn't like, hey, ball got snapped and then he got the ball and then moved. So I know that might sound silly, but for a guy who's running Alex Van Pelt's offense, which is going to be West Coast, which is going to be that Shanahan type stuff, like that's going to be a big part of what they do. So I liked that. I liked his mechanics in that play action pass miss to Rager, which is a little bit of a high throw, a little bit of a drop.
Wobble.
Again, yeah, but like, dude, pouring rain, but I mean, it's a catchable ball in my opinion. I'd like the ball to be 6 inches lower, surely. But again, the mechanics of it, of ball fake, one hitch, holding those defenders, and then getting the ball out at the proper time, proper location, I liked that. And I think more often than not, that's going to be a completion. So again, he didn't do that a lot at Carolina. And then that last completion he had, which is that check down, I think he said after the game, like, oh, maybe I could have held it a little bit longer. Dude, that's the only place to go with the football in that situation, and I like the fact that he did it so quickly. So people might think, oh, my gosh, dude, we're talking about running back or handing the ball. That stuff matters to me when you're building the foundation of that young player.
Remember, we had a very similar conversation last year after C.J. Stroud's first game, our preseason game. And I'm not saying Drake May is going to have a C.J. Stroud year or anybody is ever going to have a C.J. Stroud year ever again. Okay, I'm not saying that. But after his first preseason game, literally what we said was, hey, look comfortable in the huddle. Looked comfortable getting a snap, He handed the ball off, was able to be confident, seemingly looked like everybody was respecting him. Like, he just looked the part. And he even threw a pick at the end of his.
Against New England, sure.
Yeah, he even threw a pick at the end of this thing, and everybody was like, okay.
Oh, my God,
he
this guy stinks.
He looked comfortable. Okay, he threw a pick. Just say what it is. It's like, this is their first NFL snap in an NFL, in a very different operation, very different system, new guys.
Yeah.
You're no longer the big man on campus. Like, this is not your team. Drake May led North Carolina in rushing and passing 2 years ago. He's Drake May. His brothers are literally Chapel Hill royalty. Like, this is a whole new world. Everything seemed the part, which I think is what we take away from that particular game. On the flip side, okay, looked good. The thought of the returner being a guy for you guys is a big deal.
Yeah, David Wallace. I mean, kind of continuing the street of like a random small white guy who has a huge punt return and then all of a sudden might turn into somebody, and he's wearing number 30. Like, is there any – he plays wide receiver and he's wearing 30. So it kind of gives you that vibe like, oh, this is Edelman. This guy is going to be Drake May's Edelman. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, so I think that was the takeaway. And then Johnny Hecker's a dog, and we just move on.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that is what we take from that game. Let's go to the rainy Lions and Giants game. I was not able to see the entirety of this game because it was on NFL Plus, which I am obviously a subscriber of, but on TV is a lot easier, especially whenever, you got life and everything like that. Big takeaway from there, Hendon Hooker gets a concussion for the Lions.
Uh-oh.
But he did have, a couple plays. Did you watch the game? Have you seen anything? And what is your takeaway from Lions and Giants? Oh, my.
Yeah, I didn't watch that game.
Okay, standard away.
I saw some of the highlights. I think more of the practice video that I've seen that has kind of surfaced on the internet of some of the neighbors stuff, the fights, obviously. That's kind of a little bit more of my stuff than the game last night. I didn't watch last night.
What did you see from the fights? Because we've talked about this a couple times. The NFL sent memos to every general manager, head coach, I think scout, exec, literally every person on their email list. The NFL sent out memos about these joint practices and how they can't just become melees. Like, this is not what these are supposed to be about. This is not what the NFL is about. We don't want people who aren't NFL fans to see these clips and be like, the NFL is bullshit. Yeah. They're out of control, wild animals. I don't think there's any other option to, and I understand I'm a doofus, and we are very clear about that every single day. Of
course.
We are not setting any other expectations. But from being there and witnessing and watching people's dreams either coming true or insurance being sold for the rest of their life, or making a team or not making a team, and then people's toughness being questioned by people because it's the men's league now. This isn't the thing. I don't know how joint practices don't turn into fights at some points. And if you don't stick up for your teammate, that's ruining your locker room persona pretty much. I don't know how you don't fight there, Orlovsky. Am I wrong in thinking that? I legitimately don't know how they don't turn into fights. I appreciate the NFL being like, hey, this can't be what it is. And coaches, you need to say it. Coaches like it. And then we're hearing from potential ownership of the Giants was happy that the Giants fought back and said,
I was going to say, like, there's also teams that need it. There's also teams that at some point you sit back and you're like, hey, we're not going to allow any of us to push us around anymore. Like, you're not going to just allow us because we haven't – like, the Giants are a perfect example. The Giants have been pushed around a little bit. They had Dable's first year, and they were fantastic when it came to storylines, and he was coach of the year and whatnot. But they've been punked a little bit. They've been pushed around a little bit. And really, like, the guy that has been their face, or at least the person that we attached the toughness of New York to with Saquon's isn't there. So, like, I love the fact that Neighbors is bringing a little attitude, a little juice, a little bit of like, hey, I don't know what's happened before I got here, but I didn't happen anymore. And especially against the Lions that have become like the bully on the block. And so I love that. We've all seen it a ton. But I love what Neighbors has brought to that offense. As far as the clips that I've seen, I mean, it looks like real juice in the NFL. Like, I'm not just talking about energy. I'm talking about a dude that, can like change a football team type of thing, or at least change an offense. Like a dude that looks like a real difference maker.
A dog. Yeah. Which was literally the entire Hard Knocks about drafting him. Like, that is all Daboll wanted. That's all Joe Schoen. The amount of times Joe Schoen and Daboll explained what a dog was to the producers, and then they use it. We are looking for dogs. Well, what are dogs, Coach? Well, if you have to ask, you'll never understand. But here is what we're looking for. I think he boosts Daniel Jones too, right? I think he gives a little bit more pizzazz and maybe a little bit more confidence and moxie and I don't want to say like more attitude, but I think he does. I think he naturally brings that too, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. More of confidence in regards to being like, hey, I don't care who you have covering my guy's going to whoop you. And so I don't care. I don't even have to be good sometimes. As a quarterback, sometimes when you have a guy like that, it frees you up to know, you don't have to be perfect, dude. You could, as long as you throw the ball somewhere near him, something good is more likely than not going to happen. And that gives you such an aggressive mindset. I remember that with Reggie Wayne. Reggie was like that. You as a quarterback, you're like, I'm just going to throw it towards Reggie, because he just had that killer mindset. Pierre Garçon was like that. Calvin was like that. Andre Johnson, who just went to the Hall of Fame, was like that. Where they just had that moxie and that juice about them. And as a quarterback, you were like, I don't necessarily know what I'm looking at here, and I'm just throwing it towards you, and we're going to be okay just because you have such a confidence in it.
See, that mindset, I think, is what every one of those wide receivers or guys that think they're one of those wide receivers want their quarterback to have, because whenever guys aren't getting balls or targets, or I guess is the new stat that they say, they go, well, the way they're covering you, you don't have any targets. Every wide receiver is like, I'm open. You just throw the ball. Doubt. I am open. It does not matter. Malik Neighbors has that, obviously.
Big time.
And he has been.
It's like Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I'm open. They're shading and say, I don't care. I'm going to get the ball. Yep. And if the quarterback stops feeding that's when it becomes, so I'm not open? So that's where issues could potentially happen.
And Pat, I'd also add this too. When you have a guy like that, it also gives you it shifts your mindset from being a defensive thrower to an aggressive thrower. Because you start to try to make these throws that maybe are a little bit riskier, but you're like, I can make this throw as long as I put it somewhere around this area. It also triggers in your mind, hey, he won't let the other team get it. That frees you up mentally as well, too. He'll just find a way to make sure the other team doesn't get the ball also.
Hey, some of those wide receivers have good DB skills.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Some of them have good DB skills, and that's big hug from quarterback whenever you get back. Speaking of hugs, a lot of them are needed seemingly down in Dallas. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, Dan, it seems like every year when we do this with the Cowboys, there's really no middle ground. It's either, hey, Super Bowl, or, the other half of America is going to say that they're going to suck. But I assume you saw the recent clip of Jerry Jones talking about the CeeDee Lamb situation. I think we have it.
Are you saying there's a sense of urgency as you begin the preseason to get CeeDee done?
No.
No? Why do you say that?
I'm just I went to high school. I went to college. I don't know why I said it, but I'm just saying I don't know. I don't have a sense of urgency about getting it done.
It's a long-standing tradition.
Pick any reason you want. I was at Nobu 2 days ago. Give that as a reason.
He's just saying, here's a matter of facts. I went to high school, I went to college, I was at Nobu. I don't have a sense of urgency. I don't have a reason for you. I just don't have a sense of urgency.
Yeah, with that in mind, Dan, do you think, are we kind of looking at a lame duck year potentially for the Cowboys here? All their cornerstone best players are unhappy about their contracts. Jerry is seemingly putting his foot in his mouth. Obviously, CD saw that and quote tweeted it and just said, LOL, so he's not
LOL,
happy.
yeah.
Is there a chance that he's going to be requesting a trade here soon? When does this end? And obviously none of this stuff is good going into the season for the Cowboys.
Yeah, so this is as fumbled a situation as the Cowboys have had in really years, probably going back to that initial contract with Dak, and that one, depending on what side of the fence you stand on with Dak, whatnot. But think about it in this regard, okay? The Cowboys right now, in most of people's opinion, are a little bit of a fringe playoff team just because they've lost some important pieces. Without CeeDee Lamb, there's no shot. Without CeeDee Lamb, we're talking, you're competing for a top 10 draft pick. Excuse me, because your offense won't be able to score. So Dak Prescott wants a new contract. He's not going to get it, and it doesn't seem like he's going to get it this season. CeeDee Lamb wants a new contract, and it certainly doesn't feel like it right now, to Jerry's words, no urgency. If CeeDee holds out for 2 games, let's live in the world. I think Emmitt Smith held out for 2 games probably 15 years ago, 20 years ago. If he holds out for 2 games, and when you're a fringe playoff team, that matters big time. And so I don't think that like there's a trade request, because if you look at the Cowboys' history, they keep those star receivers. Like they kept Coop, they kept after they traded for him, they kept Dez, they obviously playmaker, Irvin. So like I don't think a trade request is a thing, but I think it's going to be very difficult for all four things in Dallas to go the way that they want. One, that they win meaningful playoff games. I don't think that is going to happen. Two, Dak Prescott to get paid, Micah Parsons to get paid, CeeDee Lamb get paid. What they actually are worth and value. I don't see how all four of those things happen for Dallas, and it's just a massive, massive miss when you're going into a season with all of those unknowns at big pieces.
It feels like they're just punting on the year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mike McCarthy's contract's up, Dak's up, CD's mad, Micah's mad. Jerry's like, I was at Nobu last year.
Whatever.
It is a very interesting time for the Dallas Cowboys right now. Like, is this a lame duck year? You win a Super Bowl, everybody stay.
Mm-hmm. You guys have their schedule? Like, do you guys have their schedule? Can you pop their schedule? I don't know. I wish I knew their schedule and like their first 6 or 8 games, because the season is a month from today starting or something like that. So
27 days.
27 days.
27 days. And so I mean, if CD comes back in 2 weeks or something like that, you're always at risk for how good a football shape are you in? Are you ready to go play those 70 snaps? So I just think it's such a fascinating year when it comes to so many unknowns for 25.
Yeah, we got that going on with the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, the Ayuk stuff going on, where that is just seemingly running in a circle. Trent, has that been figured out?
Nope.
No. Trent hasn't been figured out. Judon. I mean, there's a lot at a lot of places where I guess this is.
Dude, that's why, like, if your team's in the NFC.
Yeah, go ahead.
If your team's in the NFC, and you were those fringe teams, like you're trying to jump this season and put pressure on the Cowboys who have unknowns, the 49ers who have their unknowns. So if you're a team like the Seattle Seahawks that were a little bit like fringy, could they make the playoffs? Like, you got to come out the gates firing. If you're a team, I think Washington could surprise people this season if Jaden's as good as certainly I thought he was. Come out, because you're trying to jump those teams that who knows what's going to happen with Trent and Ayuk. Do they miss a couple? All that stuff.
Well, let's stay in the NFC, actually. Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Dan, there's an ESPN article about the Sirianni Jalen Hurts relationship and how they really aren't seeing eye to eye too much. And here is part of it. And one of the quotes is, quarterbacks need to feel coaches are superior or else they're running everything. What do you make of this? Because I don't know if this was a big storyline, at least this far into camp until this week, but clearly there's something going on in Philly between Hurts and Sirianni. Is this something that is kind of doom and gloom if you're an Eagles fan? Or do you think, hey, they come out, like you said, they start really hot, they'll be just fine?
They better win. That's the only way that this gets like covered up or cured or whatnot, is they better win. Dude, there was obviously disconnect last year. There was a lot of moments when we would sit there and talk about their offense.
I didn't know Sirianni and Hurts had heat.
I don't think anybody did.
I didn't know that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if last year there was like the known beef. There was definitely a disconnect. Remember, like, they started hot. Then there was the sideline stuff between him and AJ, and they're really good friends. So is it two competitors, or is there, stuff going on that we don't know? And then, the way that team fell apart was, I don't, Jalen didn't look like himself, and I don't know if we knew that there was this much disconnect. At least a play on the field.
That's wild. They were able to keep that as tight as it was for as long as it was. Because I'm just now learning about this week.
Yeah, it was after that Bills overtime game. Actually, like when the Bills lost and the Eagles won, the Eagles went down, and the Bills after that game kind of turned it on.
Yeah,
wild.
Yeah, and I just they're not similar. They're not the exact same things, But like, this is the last two pretty high-end starting quarterbacks in Philly that have dealt with something like this. Like Carson has that MVP caliber season, and all of a sudden, like, the rumors are coming out of a disconnect in the locker room, and he's got too much power, and they've given him too much control or whatnot, and then obviously things go south. And now with Jalen, he has that MVP caliber season, potentially MVP of the Super Bowl, and they lose this heartbreaker, and within a year or so, 18 months, there's rumors of like, hey, there's a disconnect. In both situations, while they're not the same thing, like there's unrest going on. And like, I've had people, say like, "Oh, that's the Philadelphia media." I don't know how
they didn't break any of this, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, hey, Philadelphia media normally, right?
Yeah, all over it.
In the middle of that's big market, that's big city, that's the sports. That's a sports town
for sure.
So sports media, that's never learning it. I wonder how
Big Dom keeping this whole thing together.
Legit, is that the weapon that is Big Dom? But then Big Dom wasn't there, and it still didn't get it.
That's when it all fell apart, and their relationship went to shit.
Was he destroying laptops? Like, hey, are you writing about the Sirianni Hurts thing?
I don't.
Because if so, I'm taking your laptop now.
I don't think you are. Yeah. That's funny.
But everything you hear about Jalen is just so good with that stuff, So it seems like if there was somebody that was capable of handling this and using it to, grow and develop in those relationships, it certainly would be Jalen. But I think in that town, like in that city, and I'm not from there, but like they better win. They better win.
None of my 5 towns. Okay, you can't be having that happen, especially with Big Dom around. All right, Dan, we appreciate you joining us, buddy. Which games are you looking forward to this weekend? Let's pop that weekend preseason game slate up. We actually
Caleb's going to play, right? I want to see Caleb a little bit. And just like, touching on that real quick with the Caleb, we hit on it a little bit with that CJ stuff from last year. Just remember, like CJ, I remember last year against the Patriots, obviously had the interception. I remember a clip where he went right, left, and like everyone was like, oh my gosh, this dude stinks. So it's going to be the first time Caleb's hitting the field. So let's see. I think, Caleb, what else is there this weekend?
Yeah, okay, so the S is there. Those are the starters are playing for at least a series. They're at least starting the game. So you got Colts, Broncos, starters playing. That should be at least listed starters on the depth chart. Obviously, we know the Bo Nix is second. Kansas City, Jacksonville. Trevor and Pat should be at least, one series. Travis, Xavier Worthy. Oh, my God.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. That should be a good time. Bears, Bills. Here we go. Josh Allen without Stephon Diggs that they've been trying to make a thing out of. Raiders, Vikings have starters. Then, obviously, scattered throughout, there's other games. What are you looking forward to quickly, Dan?
Yeah, so I want to see Caleb. I go back to Patrick's, I think, first start ever in the preseason. Remember, Mahomes had like that 70-yard bomb down the field, and we were like, oh, that's not normal. Does Caleb have a play like that? I'd love to see. Certainly, Indy, how's Anthony look? And then how does A.D. Mitchell look? Bo Nix and Denver, I want to see just how much operation he's given. Does either quarterback in Minnesota do anything to potentially separate itself? Or take hold of it. I think Sam's that guy right now. So a lot of the quarterback play I'll be super interested in. I'd love to see Jaden as well. Jaden in the Jets. Jaden Daniels. I want to see how he looks, obviously, versus a pretty significant defense.
All right. I can't wait for the weekend slate. I can't wait to hear your thoughts all season, all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, live from his vacation in Michael Lombardi's town, GameStop searcher, Dan Orlovsky.
I got one.
Yeah.